Hey, we're on to blue. That only took an hour. Oh. Right. The first blue. Agency Outfitter. 6 mana. You're pricey. For a 4/3, and not very well statted. Fly, sure. When Agency Outfitter enters the battlefield, you may search your graveyard, hand, and or library for a card named Magnifying Glass or a card named Thinking Cap and put them onto the battlefield. You can get both. If you search your library this way, shuffle. I'm assuming Magnifying Glass and Thinking Cap are cards in this set, so we'll have to go and find what they are. But so this is essentially a 6 mana 4/3 flyer with draw 2 and put them onto the battlefield. Depending on how good Magnifying Glass and Thinking Cap are, this could be busted. But we'll have to go find them first. Behind the Mask, 1 mana instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may collect Evidence 6. Okay. Until end of turn, target artifact or creature becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/3. If evidence was collected, it has base power and toughness 1/1, and you cast it on an opponent's thing instead. This is weird. It's like a pump / pseudo removal spell because your opponent swings with a big thing and you just collect evidence on this and turn it into a 1/1 and then just eat it. But it's base power and toughness 1/1, so if it's got +1/+1 counters, it's still probably big. This is weird. I don't know if this is good or not. Because it's sort of like blue removal, but not really. I'm going to say eh. I think this is eh. I don't think this is much to get excited about. To be fair, I haven't got excited about blue very much in a set ever, because blue doesn't really do any of the things I like, but... Benthic... Oh my god. Benthic Criminologists? 5 mana for a 4/5. Okay, fine. When Benthic Criminologist enters the battlefield or attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, draw a card. Okay. So it allows you to sack clue tokens without having to spend 2 to draw cards off of them. Or other artifacts, depending on if there are other artifacts, but we've only seen 2 cards, so... This card's... I don't know. Eh. Again, I'm going to give it an eh. Bubble Smuggler. Sure. 2 mana for a 2/1. Or, for 6, it can be a 6/5. If you morph it. I don't know. This is a weird one, because if you want a cheap blocker, you can just play it as a 2/1, but then the turn after you could just play it as a 2/2 for the disguise cost, and you could still use it to block, and then you have to wait all the way to 6 mana to make it big. Maybe you're running like one of these, but it seems really weird. And I don't think it's worth all the effort and energy you've put into trying to turn... It's essentially 9 mana for a 6/5. I think this is kind of crap. Yeah, I don't like this card. Burden of Proof. 2 mana for a flash enchantment. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 as long as it's a detective you control. Otherwise, it has base power and toughness 1/1 and can't block detectives. Okay, so this is sort of blue removal with pump. This is very similar to this. Sort of blue removal, but also a pump spell. This is sort of blue removal, but also a pump spell. I'll give it a eh. I don't know. I mean, giving blue more flexibility is probably good, because blue doesn't really do too much at the moment, apart from draw cards so other colors can win. But I would hate to see blue get real strong by itself, because when blue's real strong by itself, it's really miserable to play against. But I don't think this is really strong. This is kind of just fine. Candlestick, another clue equipment. It gives creatures +1/+1, and whenever it attacks, surveil 2. That's not bad. Because it's doing what blue likes to do, which is filtering through their deck and doing better things with their draws and all that. And you can always sacrifice it to draw a card. I think this is fine. Because, like, if you equip this, attack with a creature, it's bigger, you surveil 2, see something you like, after you've done damage to your opponent, you can just sack it and draw the card. It's okay. Case of the Filched Falcon. Okay. 1 mana, when it enters the battlefield, investigate. Good, it does something when it enters the battlefield. That's fine. To solve, you control 3 or more artifacts. Well, it created 1 when it started, so all you need to do is have 2 more. That's fine. Solved, pay 3, sacrifice this case, put 4 +1/+1 counters on target non-creature artifact. It becomes a 0/0 bird creature with flying in addition. So, this makes a 4/4 flyer. This is good. Like, it makes a 4/4 flyer. This is good. It gets itself going immediately because it makes its own clue token. So all you need to do is make 2 more clue tokens or have 2 more artifacts on the battlefield. And then you get a 4/4 flyer out of one of the artifacts you have. Because this doesn't solve until you have a target. So, short of your opponent blowing up the target as it's targeted, which is always something that can happen, and they'd have been able to do it to the flyer anyway, this is a 4/4 flyer waiting to happen. And your opponent can see it, so they're going to feel obligated to start trying to kill artifacts, or hold removal for when you get the 4/4 flyer, either of which is good for you. This is a good card. Case of the Ransacked Lab. Instant and sorcery spells you cast 1 less to cast. That's always a dangerous mechanic. To solve, you've cast 4 or more instant and sorcery spells this turn. Jesus. This is not happening in Limited. This is a standard card. This is just not happening in Limited. Solved. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. Okay, this is good in Standard. In Limited, it's trash. There is no way in Limited. I mean, unless you're running, like, all spells, but again, you're probably just losing the game if you're running all spells and you don't literally draw this. But, like, and how are you winning the game? This card is not Limited playable, I don't think. I don't think anyone plays this in Limited. Maybe somebody tries to play it for the meme, or, I mean, if there's a bunch of, like, token generation instants and sorceries that I haven't seen yet, or just burn instant and sorceries that I haven't seen yet, maybe. But I think this card could be good in, maybe not in Standard even, maybe this is like a commandery thing, but I mean, making all your spells cost 1 less is probably really good. And then this is like control heaven, right? You probably just play this in some sort of control deck and go, all of my all of my like instant sorcery spells, removal, board wipes, draw, all of it costs 1 less. And if I cast a whole bunch of them in the same turn, then from now on, whenever I counter something, kill something, draw some cards, I draw extra cards. Like, this is good. It has to be good. Not in Limited, but I think it will find a home somewhere else. Maybe it's too slow. But I think it's cool. Cold. I think the problem is, what 4 instant and sorcery spells are you playing in the same turn with those control decks? Draw spells? The draw spells don't cost that much. Maybe you're playing this in like the mono blue tempo deck, but then on turn 3, do you really want to just be playing this rather than the flyer that's just better than this? I think because it provides more instant damage or threat. Cold Case Cracker. 4 mana for a 3/3 flyer, and when it dies, investigate. Sure. It's a bit smidge understated because it's a 4 mana 3/3, but it does have flying, so it's got evasion, so that's good. And you know, if your opponent kills it, you get a clue token out of it. I would run a couple of these in a blue deck, probably. What the fuck? Conspiracy Unraveler. A 7 mana flying 6/6. You may collect evidence 10 rather than pay the mana cost for spells that you cast. This breaks a format. This breaks some sort of format, right? It just does. This breaks something somewhere. I mean, in limited, probably not. It's a 7 mana 6/6 flyer, so it's probably still good because it's a big flyer. But in limited, I don't think you care for the second part. But like standard or commander or something, this is broken. This is broken some format somewhere, right? I mean, I guess the only thing is it is a 7 mana 6/6. But could you not like cheat this out somehow for a turn and then collect evidence 10 to cast something stupid like Omniscience and then just go hard? Is this not just like that? Like, this has to be stupid somewhere, right? It's mana cheating. It's mana cheating in blue. It has to be stupid somewhere. The only problem with it is that it costs 7. But you can cheat out creatures. So it has to be stupid somewhere. Like, I'm just going out on a limb. This has to be fucking stupid in some format, right? Apart from the fact that it costs a stupid amount. Like, maybe in Commander. Like, Commander likes big things. This has to be disgusting in something. I can't imagine being able to exile cards from your graveyard rather than paying mana being bad. There is no way to cost for spells. Like, it's not instant sorcery spells, creatures, it's just spells. You just pay 10 useless garbage out of your graveyard and play any card. This has to be good. Has to be. Again, not in limited. This is another, like, in limited it's a 7 mana 6/6 flyer, woo. But there is a format where this is stupid. There has to be a format where this is stupid. Coveted Falcon. 3 mana for a 1/4 flyer. Okay, so it's defensive. Whenever it attacks, gain control of target permanent you own but don't control. Okay. So you can disguise to flip it up for 2. When it is turned face up, target permanent gains control of any number of target permanents you control. Draw a card for each one they gain control of this way. And then you can get them back by attacking. This is weird. Like, I guess the idea is you turn it face up and give your opponent a bunch of clue tokens. And then draw cards without having to pay for the clue tokens. And then you can swing with the bird and take back the clue tokens before your opponent has a chance to sack them. But because you're targeting, you can swing and your opponent can wait for you to target and then just eat the clue token themselves and draw a card. But maybe that slows them down so they're not hitting you as much. I don't know about this one. This is weird. Again, blue does so many like weird things that I'm just like, eh. Crime Stopper Sprite. It's a 2/2 for 3. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may collect evidence 6. Sure. It's a flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, tap target creature. If evidence was collected, put a stun counter on it. these are probably good cards. Anything that taps down when it enters the battlefield is generally pretty good. Putting a stun counter is even better. You do have to collect evidence 6, so you have to like bin probably half your graveyard by the time you want to play this thing. Maybe your whole graveyard, depending on how many spells are in there. But I think this is definitely playable and limited. Like, anything that taps down for a turn is good and limited because, you know, blue tempo is always, you know, okay. Cryptic Coat. 3 mana. When Cryptic Coat enters the battlefield, cloak. When Cryptic Coat enters the battlefield, cloak the top card of your library, then attach Cryptic Cloak to it. To cloak a card, put it onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature with ward 2. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature card. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. Return Cryptic Coat to its owner's hand. This is weird. But I mean, it is an unblockable thing, right? So, is blue doing the whole morph mechanic? Is that what I'm seeing? The whole disguise mechanic? I guess so. Because this is like, gives any creature disguise and then makes them unblockable as well and gives them +1 attack. This is probably fine. You can return it to your hand to do it again. And like, thinking about it, this, when it's turned face up, you put 4 +1/+1 counters on it. So if you manage to Cryptic Coat this, you can turn it face up for, because it says, turn it face up anytime for its mana cost, if it's a creature card. So you turn this face up for its mana cost, which is 2, and it instantly gets 4 +1/+1 counters, becomes a 6/5, and also has, it's a 7/5 that can't be blocked for 2 mana. I mean, the actual chances you pull that little combo off are relatively slim, but I think a 7/5 that can't be blocked probably wins you the game, if I'm honest. This is what I mean about blue having a lot of finicky stuff. They have a lot of, like, a couple of cards that go together really well, but you have to, like, pull them off, and I'd rather just have a big green dude that smooshes your face. But it's weird. I think this card is okay. I think this card is probably good just because it can't. You can give a creature it can't be blocked, so you could just whittle away. Curious Inquiry. 1 mana. Whenever enchant creature +1/+1, and whenever it does combat damage to a player, investigate. It's no Curiosity. Or was it Curiosity that was whenever it hits a creature, draw a card, but didn't give +1/+1? It's no Curiosity, but it's fine. It's a good way to generate value with things that have evasion, which blue seems to have in boatloads. So, yeah, it's fine. Deduce. 2 mana, draw a card, investigate. So draw a card again later for 2 mana. Instant speed. I prefer draw a card for 1 mana, but it's probably not bad. It's probably fine. I don't know how excited you are with this card, but I mean, blue does draw, so sure. Dramatic Accusation. 3 mana for an enchantment. It taps, doesn't untap, and you can shuffle it into its owner's library. Sure, this is blue removal, so blue removal's fine. It's been a while since we saw the whole tap down enchantment. They've been a lot of like minus attack enchantments and that sort of stuff, and turn things into things that don't have any abilities or anything like that. So it's been a while since we've seen one of these. These are always okay. I mean, it's removal. They're better than okay. They're fine. They're pretty good, but I mean, it's not exciting. It's just, you know, blue removal. Eliminate the Impossible. 2 mana. Investigate. Creatures your opponents control get -2, -0 until end of turn. If any of them are suspected, they're no longer suspected. It stops your opponent from hitting you too hard, I guess. I don't know. It's sure. It's yeah. Again, these cards never really excite me. It's not even draw a card. It's get to draw a card later, and your opponent can't hit you. And I don't know how important the suspected mechanic is because I haven't seen it very much yet. So, Exit Specialist. 2 mana, can't be blocked with creatures of power 3 or greater. You can morph it, and when it's turn face up, return another target creature to its owner's hand. Okay. So it's either a nice little attacker, because it's a 2 mana, 2/1 that can't be blocked, apart from things that it probably trades with. Well, no, it's power, so there's a bunch of 1/4s that can just eat this thing. And you can always, or you can disguise it for 3 and then turn it up for 5 later, or 2 and 3 altogether, so it's 5 altogether, but 2 later. And then you bounce something. And bounce is always good in blue. But usually for 1 mana, not 2. But it is stapled to a creature, so. Yeah, this is probably okay. Again, but I'm not really sure about blue because I kind of try not to play it. I don't tend to play it too much because I'm just not very good at blue. I prefer just big dudes smushing stuff. It's all too finicky in blue. It's all about minute advantages slowly accumulating into the win, and I'm just like, I'd rather just smash someone, thanks. Fey Flight. 2 mana, flash. Enchanted creature. When Fey Flight enters the battlefield, enchanted creature means hexproof. Okay, this is good. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has flying. This is a very good card. This is good card. It's 2 mana, instant speed, protection for your creature, and it gets bigger and has flying. This is good. Especially good in blue. Because your creatures are generally going to be weaker, so you're probably going to be losing races. But if you do have something that's big enough and your opponent tries to get rid of it, you just say no, and then it's even bigger and hits you even harder. This is good. I think this card is good. I think you probably pick this if you're running blue. Again, I'm not running blue. But if you're running blue, you probably pick this card. Forensic Gadgeteer. 3 mana for a 2/3. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate. Okay. Activates the abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate. You can't reduce its cost less than 1. But that does mean all of your clues have sack draw for 1. This is probably a very good card. I think this is a very good card. It essentially means everything that is an artifact, like that, comes with a clue. And all of your equipment costs are 1 less. All of your abilities are... So, Cryptid Coat now costs... Now you return it to your hand for 1. This bird... Disguise for 1? I don't know. It's not an artifact until you disguise it, right? Till after it's disguised. I'm not sure. I don't know about that, but yeah, it just makes all your clue tokens 1 mana draw a card, which is really good. I think this card is very good for what blue wants to be doing. Probably this card is very good. Is it really good in limited? Yeah, probably, because there's a lot of clue token generation, so it's just, you know, all of your you could just draw for days. This is probably really good. Forensic Researcher. 3 mana for a 1/3. I will also say this is a 3 mana 2/3, so this also isn't terrible on stats. It's not good, but it's not awful. Forensic Researcher. Untap another target permanent you control by tapping it. Sure. Collect evidence 3. Tap target creature you don't control. This is good, I think, because this is it doesn't cost mana to tap something. It just costs cards from your graveyard. And if you don't have a way of interacting with your graveyard, then you don't care about paying this cost. And you can always use it to untap lands. It's sort of like blue ramp. I think this is probably a playable. I don't know if I'm excited about getting this card. Maybe I am, but I think this is definitely a playable card. In limited. Furtive Courier. 3 mana for a 3/2. Can't be blocked as long as you've sacrificed an artifact this turn. Whenever it attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay. So again, if you have clues, you sack a clue, draw a card, this guy can't be blocked, you attack with him to draw another card, and then discard. Again, I'm not very good at evaluating blue, just because I'm like, oh look, their cards draw cards. I guess that's good, because that's what blue wants to do. Yeah, sure. This card draws cards, and can be unblockable. I mean, the unblockable probably makes it, right? Like, you can be unblockable and just start chunking your opponent for 3. If you have artifacts to sacrifice, which you probably do, because there seems to be a lot of artifact stuff. Or clues to sacrifice. There seems to be a lot of clue generation in blue. Yeah. This is probably good. Hotshot Investigators. Okay. 6 mana for a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. If you controlled it, investigate. This is a very expensive bounce spell. Stapled to an overpriced, to an understated creature. This is not good. I don't think. I mean, maybe it's your high end and you're just like, I would need a big ground creature, and then it's a 4/4, but like... it slows your opponent down. It doesn't even have flash, so it's not like you can do it in your opponent's turn. You just play it on your turn and bounce something, and they just play it again on their turn. Like, it buys you a turn maybe, and it's a 4/4. I don't think it's good. Maybe you're the one attacking, and maybe it bounces something important, and maybe you finish them off. But I just, Intrude on the Mind. 5 mana, mythic. Okay. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put the pile into your hand and the others into your graveyard. Create a 0/0 colorless stop to artifact creature token with flying. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each card put into your graveyard this way. This is probably really good, right? Cast at the end of your opponent's turn. Separate it into, like, 1 or 2 really good cards, and then the 3 other. Wait. No. Wait. How do you separate it? Yeah. So you separate it so you've got 1 really good card and 4 trash cards, and either... No. Yeah, because then either they give you the 4 trash cards, how do you do this? It's probably like 2 and 3. Because if you make it so you've got, like, the higher number is the good cards. They just... I don't know. I think you do 2 and 3, and you either get the cards you want, or you get a Thopter with plus. Yeah, this is probably good. I don't know. It's 5 mana. Like, it's 5 mana for... But you can draw a whole bunch of cards out of it and get a decent-sized flyer out of it. Oh, blue, why do you have to be complicated? Just either have big dudes or, like, spells that do shit. Don't have complicated drawing bullshit crap. God damn it. This is probably good. This is probably very good. I don't know how good it is in Limited. It is a draw spell, and it makes a flyer, so it's probably good in Limited, actually. It's probably just good in everything. This is probably, yeah, this is probably just a good card. Jaded Analyst. 2 mana, Defender, 3/2. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, it loses Defender and gains Vigilance. Sure. It's a 2 mana, 3/2. Yeah. I'm not excited. I still want to go back and be like this. Again, I don't do blue, but I should be more excited by this card because I think it's really good, but I don't really know because I don't do blue, so sure. Anyway, yeah, this is just a, whatever card. There we had the 2 mana 3/3 in the last set that lost Defender whenever you played an artifact, and it was fine. So this is just a worse version of that, I guess. Living Conundrum. 5 mana for a 2/5 hexproof. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, skip that draw instead. As long as there are no cards in your library, Living Conundrum has base power and toughness 10/10 and has flying and vigilance. So this is like a weird ass win condition. I don't know. Maybe you probably play like one of these in your deck just in case you're like, oh, maybe we're gonna go to, maybe my opponent has nothing scary and I also have nothing scary apart from this, so maybe we just go to a nothing burger and I draw more cards and then this becomes a 10/10. I guess, and hopefully my opponent doesn't have AoE removal. This is weird. I'd take one. Like, if I was playing blue, I'd have like 1, maybe 2 of these, and be like, yeah, my win condition is these, and draw myself out like an idiot. Maybe. Lost in the Maze. 2 mana and X flash. Okay. When Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield, tap X target creatures. Put a stun counter on each of those creatures you don't control. Tapped creatures you control have hexproof. This is probably really good. This is very good. Because you either do it defensively. Even defensively. Like, say you're casting this for 5. Your opponent is targeting one of your creatures with a removal spell. You cast this for 5. You play it. You tap your own creature so it gets hexproof. And you still got 2 taps left. Where's my hand? There. So you tap 2 of their creatures and stun counter them. This is probably really good. I think this is really good. In Limited, I think this is very, very good. Yeah, I think this is a very good card. Mistway Spy. A 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. Already liking it. So you can disguise it, so for 3 and then 2 later on, so 5 in total. When Mistway Spy is turned face up until end of turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, investigate. I mean, I'd play it as a 1-mana, 1/1 flyer. But if you get the chance to flip it up from disguise and hit your opponent with a couple of dudes, you just make a bunch of clues. It's probably good, right? Just making clues, hitting dudes. Again, it's a 1/1 flyer for 1. I'd probably just take it. In limited. Like 1/1 flyer for 1 is good. Probably very good in limited, so yeah, I'd take this card regardless, and then maybe I'd use the disguise, maybe not. Out Cold. 4 mana, the spell can't be countered. Tap up to 2 target creatures and put a stun counter on each of them. Investigate. Sure. It slows your opponent down for a couple of turns. You get an investigate out of it. It's okay. These are the sort of cards I'm very much like, it's fine. Prophet's Edict Memory. 2 mana for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. That's probably good enough. You have no maximum hand size. Sure. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've drawn more than 1 card this turn, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn -1. I mean, with a bunch of Investigate, you could just dump mana into clue tokens, draw cards, and pump something. This is a bit simpler. This I understand. And this is probably good. I think this is good. 2 mana, draw a card, and then from that point on, you can just pump your small flying dudes because you're blue, so you have a bunch of small flying dudes, by drawing with the clue tokens or drawing with your blue draw spells or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is good. Projector Inspector. Sure. 3 mana for a 3/2. When Projector Inspector or another detective enters the battlefield under your control, and whenever a detective you control is turned face up, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This is probably fine. Like, it's enter the battlefield, draw a card, discard a card. That's fine. And then if there are more detectives, you get to draw more cards and discard more cards. This is okay. This is like a fine card. It's like the part of the engine for this detective deck, I guess. Reasonable Doubt. 2 mana. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. Suspect up to 1 target creature. It's a 2 mana counter spell, I guess. Probably fine. I don't really care for counter spells unlimited. And I don't really know how good the suspect mechanic is, so Reenact the Crime. 4 triple blue. Or 1 and triple blue. So 4 mana in total. Exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. This has to be stupid again. I think it's bad and limited, but this has to be stupid somewhere again, right? You just, like, mill a card from your grave, or discard a card for cheap, and then play this, and just play it. I worry about, like, there's already a bunch of, like, Atraxa graveyard shenanigan bullshit. Like, does this not just do that? Like, turn 4, you just cast Atraxa with this, if you just discard her and you have, like, enough. I don't know if you're going to be able to do it with triple blue. I think in limited this isn't a very good card. Again, it's difficult for me to know for sure. but I would say in limited this card is kind of crap. Probably going to be the card, the rare that everyone is passing around the table because nobody wants to play it. But there's probably something that breaks this somewhere in some sort of format. Steam Core Scholar. 3 mana for a 2/2 Flying Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an instant or sorcery card or a creature card with flying. It's a 3 mana 2/2 Flying Vigilance that draws cards. It's good. Probably. Yeah, it's probably good. Yeah, it's going to be good, right? It's just going to be good. Sudden Setback. 4 mana. The owner of target spell or non-land permanent puts it on the top of the... Yeah, okay. So this is just top or bottom of library. You can do it to spells on the stack as well, I guess. This is sort of like blue removal, but it's pricey. Surveillance Monitor. 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you may collect evidence for. Sure. Whenever you collect evidence, create a 1/1 colorless top artifact creature token with flying. This is probably good. Because it's not just... So it's a 3/3 that collects evidence itself, so makes a 1/1. So it's a 4/4. And then from then on, whenever you collect evidence, you make more 1/1s. This is probably a really good card. Get a couple of these out and just start vomiting out evidence cards. I mean, you need cards in your graveyard for the evidence, so I don't know how good collecting evidence actually is, but I mean, if you're casting instant or sorcery spells, just sending stuff to the graveyard, it's probably fine. Unauthorized Exit. 2 mana, return type non-land permanent to its owner's hand, Surveil 1. I mean, it's a slightly too expensive bounce spell, but you get to Surveil. Yeah, this is probably good. This is probably like the main blue removal spell you're going to be seeing in limited. It's just going to be people bouncing your shit with this and surveilling. Yeah, it's probably good.